This is Listen After Watching.
A podcast where we recap and discuss the most mind-bending, twisty, and thought-provoking TV shows and movies out there. I'm Adrian.
And I'm Alicia. Let's dive in.
Y'all, what the hell did we just watch? Welcome back to Listen After Watching. I'm your host, Adrian. This is my sister.
And your host, Alicia.
That too. Oh my dear Lord, y'all. My mind has been blown every episode of this season of Severance, and this was no exception.
This took us to the great outdoors, and I'm shook.
I am REI. I am Bass Pro. I was like, what show am I watching? Did I turn on the wrong show? I was shocked. Shooketh.
We're so excited to talk about it. There's lots to discuss. A lot happened, surprisingly, outside of Lumen Walls.
Lord, yes, it did. And we can't wait to get into it. But first of all, I just want to say, Leash, how you doing?
Well, second of all, I just want to say I'm good. We just spent some time together. We're recording on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, if we sound more awake, it's because it's not 10 a.m. on a Sunday.
That's true.
I think this might be the way to go for me.
It kind of feels really good. I kind of really like how this feels. Yeah, we got together in person and talked about the episode, which we always do before we record. And we actually watched basically the whole episode together again, which we also always try to watch it twice, because once for enjoyment, twice for the note taking and all of that. And then we had a lovely lunch. We called our mom and didn't outright ask for her to make us lunch, but she just like intuits. She always offers. She was like, "You guys want to come over for lunch?" And I was like, "Well, what an offer I hadn't thought of before." And so we went over there and had lunch. It was great.
We sound like we're in college. Like we can't afford like reading ramen or something. We're in our 30s.
Like we're not pushing 40.
Oh,
some of us.
Ouchie-wah-wah.
But yeah, I'm great. I'm in a great mood because of the nice day we've had so far. How about you?
Me too. I'm in a good mood. I'm going to go eat Indian food with some friends after this.
That sounds great.
Oh, yeah. So it's a good day. You know, this day and age, you have to find some of the good nuggets in life and the joy in life. And that's what I'm doing. You know?
Being around your people, eating good food. We both have tea, which is like my favorite beverage when we record. What kind of tea do you have?
I have an immunity elderberry tea because I thought I was getting sick. I had an earache.
Yeah.
Like a baby. So I'm drinking tea, immunity tea.
What kind of adult has an earache?
This can. It's my first earache I've ever had. It's really weird.
Congratulations. Yeah. I have jasmine tea because I am not ill. But strangely, we were talking about this too. I also had some weird ear thing earlier this week, so I'm not just ragging on you for your ear problems.
What's really weird is Abby is also having an ear thing, and our cat is also having an ear thing.
Y'all got black mold.
Yesterday, Abby was like, "What's going on with our ears? I'm going to Google it." And I was like, there's no possible way that something is affecting one of all of our ears in this house, including our cat.
Google what's going on with our ears. Hopefully you get an answer.
Oh, it's probably something related to Doge.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
They got all our payment information, and they're in our ears.
Yeah, or they're ruining our ear health. That's how they get you.
DEI, it's probably.
DEI, which stands for diversity, ears, and inclusion. This is an educational podcast.
Oh, dear God. We might have to cut all that out.
Well, shall we get into it?
Oh my god, yes. We have so much we wanna say about this episode.
Let's do it. Well, as always, this is your perpetual spoiler alert. We are talking about season 2, episode 4 of Severance called Woe's Hollow. So if you haven't
Ooh.
watched it yet, go watch it. It is spooky, so warning on that, but go check it out. Come back, listen to this because we've got a lot to say.
Oh, yes. It was actually kind of spooky. There was some
There was some
spooky
horror.
parts. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Which we love.
Yeah, I do.
Uh, if you could had to describe or recap this episode in one word, Leash, what would you say? What's your word?
My my word is Montauk.
Oh, oh, I
Honestly, a
wanna
word for the whole series.
yeah.
I think it's a good one.
Oh, I like it.
What's yours?
My word is pupils.
I love it,
Ah, and you know why.
and I know why. All right, well, let's get into it. So, when the episode opens, Annie Irving wakes up outside on a frozen lake, and each member of MDR also wakes up nearby, and they all congregate on a cliff overlooking the lake. Then they discover a TV and a pre recorded DVD message from Milchick that tells them that this is an Ortbo, an outdoor retreat and team building occurrence. And he instructs them to find the previously unrevealed fourth appendix to the Lumen Handbook, written by none other than Keir Egan. What an opening.
Oh my god. First of all, just the great expanse that we're in this episode is unlike anything we've seen in this entire series.
Yeah.
It's like the complete opposite of the tiny confines of the severed floor.
Yeah.
And we got absolutely no warning that we were going to be here. Just like the innies, I guess, waking up there.
Yeah, I think I've seen, some stills of them outside in their little fur outfits, and I knew that, like, something was coming, but I didn't know if they were, like, innies or outies. I guess I should have known, but yeah,
Mm.
this is it,
Well, you
like,
know
the 4th
me,
episode.
I I prefer not to have any I prefer not to watch promos, previews, anything and just go in completely
Yeah,
blind, so I try not to watch those.
I
I was
respect.
blown away. I was actually wondering if I was watching like what show I was watching and where we were going with this series multiple times during this episode. But yeah, we open with Irving just out in the middle of this frozen lake,
Mhm,
confused, and he starts yelling. And then we see
mhm.
Mark up on the cliff, which looks a lot like the cliff that Kier is standing on. If you remember when they finish a file and the little cartoon thing happens and they're like, da, 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 da.
Right.
He's standing on this cliff and it looks like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it does.
so,
That's I think it's the same they use that same image on, like, the DVD title screen. You see it too.
mm-hmm. And they're in Dieter Egan National Forest, which we all know and love, one of the best national forests.
I love hiking there. Man, it's so nice. Um, yeah, uh, very strange, cool outfits though. I mean,
Oh, the outfits are sick.
the outfits
They
are
look
sick.
they look warm, they look fashion.
I love that they're all wearing the same thing.
I
I mean,
know.
it's cute.
Yeah, Lumen didn't spare an expense with their little outfits.
No, they went right to the mink factory and
Yeah.
said, "Give us
It's
all your
very
best minks."
it's very Lewis and Clark, especially when they take off their jackets and it's like the little suspenders and the long johns.
Yes, I know. The long johns are great. It's giving Russia to me,
It is. It is.
and not just because 'cause they're in a frozen tundra, but that doesn't help. Siberia.
Uh, but the Ortbo, I could safely say we didn't get anywhere close to guessing what the team outing is going to be last episode.
You're right.
This blew my mind. Um, So what happens next is Milchick gives his little thing on the TV and says that there will be guides, there will be help along the way. So the team, following the directions of strange doppelgangers of themselves, they make their way to Scissor Cave, gay, where they retrieve the fourth appendix. The book reveals that Kier had a twin named Dieter, and they're trying to follow his path to Woe's Hollow. Along the way, Irving shares with Mark his suspicion that Helly was lying about what her Audi saw during the OTC.
Wow, wow, wow. So, like, the twin of it all seems like just such, what's the word I'm thinking of?
It's
Analogy for their
yeah,
severance.
severed selves. It's kind of
Yeah.
on the nose. There's a
Yes,
lot
very.
of this twin imagery. Even a couple episodes ago when Dylan goes for the job interview and the guy who's interviewing him looks like he could be his twin, at least
True.
brother.
Yeah.
So the team is making their way to Woe's Hollow, and a few interesting things happen along the way. First of all, Irving is seeming very agitated and just very out of sorts, I think, this whole episode. And he
Mhm.
shares with Mark that he thinks Helly's lying about what she saw in OTC. So he's not trusting Helly at this point, and he's finally making that very clear.
Mhm.
And Mark, I don't think Mark's really buying into that. He's too smitten.
In
I don't
love.
know. In
Yeah.
love.
I think he's just too in love. But yeah, it's very bold of Irving to go right to Mark and say something. It's like he's finally something about Irving this episode. He's like finally reached some point where he's like ready to confront all of these things. And yeah, and Mark is like not budging on it.
So they're walking through the woods, kind of in silence for a lot of it. And then they come across this big dead animal carcass, which seems
Mhm.
very ominous. And they can't quite tell what it even is. I think Mark says it looks like a seal.
Mhm.
But even from what we saw, I couldn't tell what the heck that was.
Something looked like a flipper foot of some kind. I don't know what it was. I could not make out any part of it. Maybe some teeth or something, but
Yeah.
just
Well,
looked
I've
like
seen
nasty.
online. Yeah, it looked nasty. It was definitely decomposing. I've seen online that folks are saying this is a reference to something called the Montauk Monster, which was an
Hmm.
animal carcass that washed ashore on a beach near the business district of Montauk, New York in 2008.
Mhm.
And apparently, similar carcasses have washed up on American and Canadian shores and have been called Amajinakus, or the Ugly One, by First Nation groups, believing it to be an omen of bad luck.
Hmm. That's interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, you get the feeling that it's ominous and it's kind of an omen or not something good usually when you see a dead thing in a show or
Yeah.
something like this. Um, but Irving, Irving again acting so weird. Irving's like, I think we should eat it.
Yeah, I don't know what he was on about, but he's like the way that I interpreted this is like, Irving must be starving. Like, it comes up later too, but I think he's just like he's really hungry, and so he's irritable, and then he just kinda, like, pops off on, Mark because Mark says something like, "We all know you had a bad experience on the outside," and Irving's like, "How did you know that?" And he turns to Dylan, and he's like, "What did you tell him, you dumbass?" And you feel bad for Dylan for being put on the spot, but Dylan, I mean, to our knowledge, didn't say anything. It's just, like,
I
obvious.
know. It's kind of uncharacteristic of the any Irving that we know.
Mhm.
I think he's feeling I think he's very on edge, and obviously the fact that he is feeling distrusting towards Helly, he's distrusting
Mhm.
towards this whole Lumen entity at this point. So I
Mhm.
think he's kind of, like, gone into survival mode where he's just, like, really watching his back at every turn and, like, even, like,
Yeah.
scavenging, like, trying to figure out how he's gonna eat, like, just not even trusting Lumen to take care of him in any way.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think that's just a way it kind of came out, but I wouldn't wanna be eating that thing, that's for sure.
That you are gonna die if you eat that,
That was
Irving. Please
nasty.
don't.
It looked gelatinous.
Ew.
Not
Yeah, and it was,
good.
like, yellow, and it had weird
Mhm.
hairs on it, and it was just strange.
Oh.
Well, we don't have to look at this carcass long because soon they arrive at Woe's Hollow, which is a waterfall, and they're greeted by Milchick and Miss Huang, who have set up a campsite. So they're on a little camp retreat. They start settling in, and Helly comes into Irving's tent to visit, and he takes the opportunity to just straight up ask her what she really saw during her OTC. But she acts strangely and dodges the question and just leaves. But then later that
Mhm.
night, they're sitting around the campfire, and Milchick is reading a story from the fourth appendix, and Miss Huang is playing the theremin. um, and at the end of the story, Helly and Mark laugh at it, which offends Milchick, and then he punishes them by tossing all their marshmallows in the fire. And then he and Miss Huang retire to wherever they're staying. Um, and then Irving again confronts Helly about her suspicious account of her time during the OTC. And she retorts by claiming Irving is bitter about the loss of Bert, causing Irving to storm off into the
Mm.
woods alone.
Ouch.
That hurt.
Damn. Yeah, Irving is not letting this go. He's gonna get to the bottom of this one way or another here.
Mhm. Yeah, what did you think of the largest waterfall in the world?
I thought it was stupendous.
It's just like
I l
it's
I
like,
love that line.
I know, it was so funny, and, just like, why would you lie about that? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
just a needless lie.
Maybe to, like, make Kier seem like it's his story is so grand, he came to the largest waterfall.
Yeah. It's giving, Mormons it's giving Book of Mormon, the Garden of Eden in Kansas.
Right, right. Yeah. Also, we have to talk about Milchick's outfit because we talked about the fur
Oh,
outfits. I mean, body looking like milk. He
it
looked
is giving.
great in his all white. Miss Huang also matching too.
Yes. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, Lumen really did it up for the Ortbo.
They are stunting. They have some designer in-house that's working on this day and night.
Yes.
It's so good. I loved it.
Uh, yeah, when Milchick appears, he just starts speaking and he's just standing there in his little outfit. It's hilarious.
I love him. And the contrast of their outfits is interesting.
Mhm.
Some
Isn't
separation
it?
clearly still of, like, management and the inferiors,
Yes. Indubitably.
indubitably. What did you think of this story that Milchick tells while they're around the campfire?
Honestly, it honestly, it was not holding my attention.
What, you didn't love it?
Um, no, it was very biblical, mythical, made up stuff sounding.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like a fairy tale.
Yeah, it was like a fairy tale where a boy jacks off and then turns into the woods slash forest.
I love that story. I would read it every night
To
before
my
bed as a
children.
child to my children. You know what, though? It is kind of like, like the classic Grimm fairy tales are like, actually really twisted and weird. So it was
Yeah.
really very much like that.
Yeah, and then this character of Woe, who was like a half size scary little woman,
Bride.
freaky woman, bride.
Yeah.
Hmm. We could have a whole podcast about that.
I know. They could spin off a whole movie franchise about woe.
And they will. It was really interesting though that Helly is, like, cracking up at this story. Like, obviously,
Mhm.
she and Mark are not believing it at this point.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mark would have laughed if it wasn't for Helly. Like, she started laughing first, so I think
Yeah.
their, like their little flirty thing is really changing Mark's behavior a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he obviously has kind of a rebellious side to him,
Mhm.
or, like, not fully trusting Lumen,
Mhm.
but he also seems to, like, stay in line for the most part for this type
Yeah.
of thing. I don't know. Mark seemed a little uncharacteristic, like, doing some things that were uncharacteristic this episode, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And another thing I guess we need to talk about is he reintegrated at the end of last episode.
Yes, and it does not seem like it's fully happened or like it's the reintegration isn't complete yet because he's not acting at all like his Audi self.
Yeah, for us, the viewer, it was kind of confusing because we're expecting, to open up and he's going down to the severed floor and suddenly his eyes are opened and we see, reintegrated Mark. But that's
Mhm.
definitely not what we got here.
No, and I gotta be honest too, when this episode started, I was like, Is the whole episode gonna be outside here?"
I
I
know.
was not excited for it, but, I mean, this episode exceeded expectations for me in that regard, but it was like everything that happened episodes 1 through 3, like, came to a screeching halt, and here now we're suddenly outside, so it was kind of, like, disappointing in that way. I thought we wouldn't get any resolution on some of these loose ends, but we
Mhm.
do, we
Oh, baby, do we.
do.
Oh. But yeah, it was a little jarring to not see Mark reintegrated after seeing that very intense scene at the end of the last episode.
Mhm.
Or I
Yeah.
should say acting reintegrated.
True, yeah.
But what
Um,
did you think about this whole Kira has a twin thing that they're learning about for the first time?
yeah, well, I'm not one of these deep thinkers, Redditors, but I do like to read what they have to say. So,
Good thing we have a podcast.
a good thing I have opinions, okay? I just don't I was like, "Okay, yeah, the twin, whatever." Like, I didn't think that it
Milkshake
was
hot.
I didn't think that it was real in the same way that, like, I don't think Noah's Ark is real, like, it's just a
Right.
parable or, like, a story,
Mhm.
um, but there were some people online who are saying that, like, Dieter obviously doesn't exist, and it's like Kier created this version of himself and named him Dieter to kind of absolve him of his guilt of some things that he did, AKA jack off in the woods, I guess.
He's he's just admitting something that he did and writing this story about it.
Yeah, he
Uh,
honestly didn't have to tell us, but,
yeah, we coulda gone without this appendix. Um, but another possible theory is that Lumen created this whole new narrative, this twin, to serve as, like you said, a parable for severed people.
Mhm,
Essentially, this severed team
mhm,
to try to help them see the consequences of wanting to break free as an innie into the
right.
outside world.
Yeah, like, you
There's
could fall to the same fate as Dieter if you stray from this path.
Yeah, your hair could turn to moss,
Uh-huh.
carrots,
Pus out of your eye.
your eye falls
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Another theory going around, if you remember, Natalie was meeting with Rickon a couple episodes ago, talking about creating a Lumen version of his book.
Mhm.
And now the severed people have this new appendix that they are meant to discover right now with a lesson to be learned for them.
Mhm.
It seems a little coincidental. And also, Apple TV has recently released an audiobook version of The You Are
Mhm.
by Rick and Hale. So, obviously, they are lifting Rickon up to become this bigger character and be involved more.
Yeah.
I don't know. The writing also is kind of in the style of Sir Rick and Hale, so
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, it would be quite a departure from his book if this is what it turned into, but it is interesting because it's, like, gotta that thing with him and Natalie has gotta turn into something, so maybe this is it, or maybe we'll see it later, I don't know.
mhm. It just seems so, like, Lumen to realize that the innies are like, "Oh, they love this one book, the only book that they've ever read. Let's get that guy to write some
Yeah,
stuff
right.
for us."
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
Shout
True.
out to Mandy who sent me the audiobook version. I still need to listen to it. It's supposedly hilarious. It's on my to-do
Yeah,
list.
I haven't listened to it yet either, but on mine as
There
well.
there's so much supplemental content for this show that there wasn't for season 1 that it's so hard to keep up with.
I know. I know there's our competitor podcast by Ben Stiller and Adam Scott,
Friends
okay?
of the pod.
Friends of the pod, and then there's the, Lexington Letter, which came out between seasons, and then there's now
Yep.
this audiobook. I mean, what else are we gonna get this season?
Yeah, I know. It might be interesting for us to do an episode on the Lexington letter,
That'd be
just
cool.
that. Maybe towards the end of this season. Like, looking
Yeah, that'd
back,
be
it's
fun.
really interesting because there are so many details we're seeing now that were in season 1 that clearly were planned.
Yeah,
So, this longer, fuller story has been built out for a while, which is really cool for a show. Like, that doesn't happen as often anymore because these days you don't know if you're gonna get a season 2 or a season 3, so
right.
I'm loving it. Yeah, maybe we'll do, an episode on the Lexington letter. That would be cool.
Yeah, let us know if you'd like to see it.
But back to Woe's Hollow. Oh, baby, things are about to get spicy. Mark goes to Helly's tent where things get hot and heavy.
Mm,
Mark briefly hallucinates Gemma's head on Helly's body.
yikes.
Meanwhile, Irving gets lost in the woods and sleeps outside, where he dreams about Bert and the personification of woe described in the appendix, a gaunt bride half the height of a natural woman. Freaky!
Freaky deaky deaky.
Freaky
Well,
all around.
yeah, I'm not talking about woe, okay? I'm talking about Mark and
I'm
Helly.
talking about the SEX scene, okay?
Do I have to
I have to
say it? Intercourse.
implied intercourse. I have to say, I did not enjoy watching this.
It was uncomfortable.
It made me uncomfy, but they were being so flirty and so like, even Irving calls it out and is like, "Your goo goo eyes,
Mhm.
making love with your pupils."
I know, and it seems unlike Mark and the Helly we know for them to like, Helly is seemingly feeling bad for her interaction with Irv at the campfire that made him storm off, and, it seems weird that they would then have intercourse and not, look for Irving or try and help him or, try and at least find him to apologize or something, I don't know.
Yeah, this is one of the parts where I felt like Mark was acting uncharacteristically of his self character.
Mhm.
He was a little he was kinda eager and
Yeah.
didn't care about, "Oh, yeah, my wife, like, that's fine. That's okay."
You know what? He's got one thing on his mind.
On his carrot. He's thinking with his carrot
With
or
his
other
carrot.
root
Root
vegetable.
vegetable.
But
I know.
again, for the viewer, a little bit weird because we know that he just reintegrated.
Mhm, mhm. Yep.
S So it's a little weird. Another interesting thing that happens is after their coitus, Helly says Helly confides in him and they're having a serious moment, and she says, "I didn't like who I was on the outside. I was ashamed."
This part was crazy because I think she's really being genuine in this moment, and he there's, like, a pause after she says this, and she looks like she's about to tell him who she
Yeah.
is, but then he cuts in a little too quickly, and he's like, "I don't care who you are on the outside, I only care who you are with me." And it's like, damn, if only he had
I
given it
know.
another minute or pressed a little bit. He did ask her, I think, "Well, who were you?" And that's when she gets uncomfortable. So, but you know what?
So
It all came
close.
to a head.
It certainly did. Uh,
Can we also talk about Irving's excursion and his dream? So he falls asleep against this rock. I thought for sure he was a
Mhm.
goner. I thought he was
Me
going
too.
to die of the cold and just that was gonna be it for him.
Me too. I thought it was gonna be like daylight and we would just have a frozen herb on the rock.
It kinda looked like that for a second, and then he woke up, and I was like, "Oh, thank God." But yeah, he falls asleep, he has this dream. When he wakes up, he's still in the forest, but the trees are, like, very creepy looking, like, they kind of look half melted, burned, like,
Mhm.
um, very much like a scary part of a fairy tale story, and he comes upon the, like, MDR cubicle desks, and he sits down at his desk, and in front of him, the partition lowers, and there's Bert smiling.
Yeah. Weird.
Very weird. Only for a second, though, then Bert puts the partition back up,
Mhm.
and then he sees, diagonal to him, he sees Woe, and whoa, was she creepy. This was like this was like true horror moment. I think for a lot of people, it probably, was a little too spooky if you're not into that.
Yeah, this is the first very in your face scary thing that they've ever had on this show, and it
Mhm.
was creepy, that little lady.
Yeah, I didn't like her.
I didn't like her either. Um, it's hard to say if he's having a nightmare or hallucinating or what's
Mhm.
going on. Yeah, but
Yeah.
then we had a closer look at his computer screen, and it has all the numbers just like usual if he's working on a file or something. But then they all start to kind of move around the screen. Suddenly we're looking at letters instead of numbers, and if you look really closely at the letters, they seem to spell out Egan.
Mhm. There ain't no other letters
And
except EAGN.
what does that spell?
Egan.
And then they even start to morph into kind of a face, which
Whose face?
apparently Helly's. I couldn't see it, honestly. It looked like an eyeball to me.
There was an eyeball, there was, like, a pair of eyes, and then it kind of, like, quickly morphs into an eyeball, but,
Mhm.
then he's spooked by Woe appears next to him, and he wakes up.
Mhm.
But what a creepy part. I really liked it, though. The way that they did it was really, really good.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely creepy. It was almost like he was having, like, a spiritual like the stories of, like, uh, indigenous people and things where they, like, go off and will have, like, a spiritual awakening
Mm,
by
mhm.
themselves. It was, like, sort of that moment for Irving. But it does
It's
seem like
true.
he got a revelation in this.
Oh, yeah, he did, because what happens next, he wakes up the next morning, and he races back to Woe's Hollow, where he finds Helly, and he confronts her, and he drags Helly to the edge of the water, and he yells for Mr. Milchick. And Irv demands him to turn her back. He's saying, turn her back. And he starts drowning Helly in the water, which is wild. And it's at this moment that Milchick says into the radio, remove the Glasgow block now. And Helly is revealed to have been Helena Egan the entire time.
Oh, shit. Oh my god. Okay.
Crazy. Um, so Milchick is forced to revert her to Helly R to save her life. And then Milchick ends up firing Irving, telling him to walk into the forest where he reverts him to his Audi. And that's where the episode ends.
Oh my god. What an ending to this freaky deaky episode. I I was like jumping up and down
Me
when
too.
Helena looks up, she comes out of the water and looks up at the top of the waterfall and says, "God damn it, Seth, do it."
Yep. Yep. And then
She
Irving's
called
like,
him,
yes, do it,
"Do
Seth.
it, Seth." Oh my god. That was so freaking good.
Helly and Irving's interactions this whole episode have been so strange. So like when they talk in Irving's tent at first, Helly gives him this look when he asks her that question, like,
Yeah.
what did you really see? And it that is like was a pretty dead giveaway in that moment, and then it's just kind of
Mhm.
building and building until the very end of the episode, like, around the campfire, she gives him looks that are, filled with anger, and is really cruel to him, and then he
Mhm.
says to her when he confronts her, finally at the waterfall, he's like, "What you said to me last night was cruel. Helly was never cruel." Oh, it's so good.
Oh, I mean, and the shit we got for saying that it could be Helena down there, you wouldn't believe, y'all. We got hate online for that shit.
Yep.
And
But you know what? I'm I feel like, it wouldn't have been as interesting if it had turned out that it was Helly instead of Helena. So, it makes sense that it was leading to this, but, all of these things that are happening, like, so early in the season, I'm like, everything's moving so fast. I thought that, like, these types of things might resolve themselves at the end of the season.
I know. Where do we go? We're on episode 4. So where do we go from
I
here?
know, we're not even halfway through.
Yeah.
Um, so Irving in his dream that's when it's, like, confirmed for him because he wakes up, like, with purpose and he runs back.
Mhm.
And he clocks it, like, right then. I don't know what it was. We were gonna talk about this maybe in a second as to why he or how he knew, but he's like, "Who would have the power to let their innie inside?" And he says to them when he's drowning her, he's like, "She's an Egan." So he
Mhm.
clocked her T right away.
I know. He he's been suspicious of her for some time. We've known this for a couple episodes. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it was his little hallucination nightmare that solidified it for him that the only person that would have the power to come in and be an innie,
Mhm.
an outie that's in, would be an Egan.
Mhm. And I think this answers for us why he decided to confide in Dylan to begin with about, like, what he saw, because I think like, they all could see in season 1 and everything, like, how close Mark and Helly were, and so I think he realized, like, once Helly lied, he was like, "This is not a safe place for me to maybe say what I did or what I saw or what I'm feeling because I don't know if I trust Helly." And then, we thought it was maybe strange that he told Dylan everything instead, but now I think it makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great point because Mark's had the wool pulled over his eyes, or he's seeing
Mhm.
in rose-colored glasses and doesn't wanna think about that.
Mhm.
So that's a good point. And he leaves Dylan kind of a hint before Milchick takes him off to be
Mhm.
done away with, where he says, he's like, it's okay, Dylan. Just remember to hang in there.
Yeah.
And if you remember, we talked about it on the podcast. One of the posters in the new break room says, hang in there. And it's the one of Dylan holding all the
Mhm.
OTC buttons.
Yep.
So we'll see where that goes. It seems like Irving has left something to do with that poster for Dylan to find.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that was a really obvious signal to Dylan. And Dylan's just like when he says it, he looks at him like, "What the hell? Like, why would you say that? What does that
Dylan
mean?"
is mouth agape. He's the most clueless one out here.
We don't get a lot from Dylan this episode, unfortunately.
No. Yeah, we were saying we didn't get a lot of great one-liners from him. He has a couple good little ones.
Yeah, but you know what? We'll get him next time.
We'll get him next time. One of the new things we learn is that there is something called the Glasgow block,
Mhm.
which, from what it sounds like, allows an outie to inhabit the innie and not switch over to the innie
Mhm.
when on the severed floor or wherever the heck they may be.
Right.
So there's been some speculation about where this name came from. A lot of people are saying it comes from the Glasgow Coma Scale, which is a neurological assessment tool used to evaluate the consciousness after a brain injury.
Hmm.
So basically, it assigns points to three categories of responses: eye opening, verbal response, and motor response.
Hmm.
If you think about it, basically what they're doing is blocking or putting in a coma the any version
Oh,
of a person and
that's
letting their
really
outie in.
interesting. Yeah. I saw that. I didn't read into it, so I'm glad you did, but um I saw people talking about it. So that's yeah. I mean, there's a lot of so we can get into this too. Like we saw Glasgow on the list of what's called system functions when Dylan was doing the OTC at the end of
Mhm.
last season. And there's a long list of things. So I'm going to read them off. There's beehive, branch transfer, clean slate, elephant, freeze frame, Glasgow, goldfish, lullaby, open house, and overtime, which is the one they did. But there's a lot of, I mean, like going back to when the season finale happened, when people saw it, there's a lot of speculation of what these things do and what they mean.
Yeah. So now we've seen for sure overtime in Glasgow.
Hmm.
What do you think some of these other ones mean? I mean, some of them are kind of obvious.
Maybe. I don't
Well,
know. I mean,
some of them we can easier speculate about what they mean.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think everyone kind of agrees on Beehive that it's like it allows them to enforce some kind of hive mind action upon them, maybe to like all work towards one goal for some reason or act as one unit in separate bodies. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, that
Creepy.
one, I feel like probably what it is. Goldfish, probably like memory of a goldfish, like, I don't know, allows them to do something, but they don't remember that moment or when the goldfish is enacted, they don't remember it after.
Yeah. Same with elephant. They're known to have long memories, so maybe bringing back a memory from something that was lost.
Mhm.
Lullaby, go sleepy poo.
Obviously. Clean slate is scary. I mean, I think that one is
Yeah, factory reboot, basically.
which a lot of people think that, like, Irving's, been through before because he's seemed to have worked there a long time. So,
Mm.
for the others, branch transfer, I don't know. Freeze frame, I don't know. Open house, I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
I mean, freeze frame, it just seems like they can stop their motor functions.
Mhm.
And
Maybe.
so but another thing is it seems like all of these would be very useful in dealing with these, like, rambunctious
I
MDR team
know.
members that we've seen just, like, running the halls and not doing what they're supposed to do, so why aren't they using them more?
I know. I don't get it. Maybe it's like, maybe it's risky in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's some sort of penalty, if there's some reason why they don't just use these all the time.
Mhm. Right.
Uh, I'm guessing we're not gonna see all of these in action in the show either, some of them are probably just extras.
Right. It's extra lore for us
Ext
to unpack.
Yeah, more stuff for us to talk about on Reddit.
Well, speaking of, let's get into some Reddit, TikTok, maybe our own
Mhm.
original theories. The first one, I think, being something that we see throughout the episode and why Irving is being so weird is that people are speculating that he has already been reintegrated. What do you think about this one?
Mhm. I think this one's very likely. If you
Mhm.
remember, in the episode where he makes that phone call in the phone booth
Mhm.
and we're wondering, "Who's he talking to?" I think it's likely that he was talking to Ragabi, that
Mhm.
maybe she and Petey had reached out to him previously, and at that point, he got the message, like you said, and he's ready to try reintegration.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it's likely. I think we also see a completely different side of Irving in this episode,
Yeah.
uh, which would make sense if he is reintegrated because we know his outie is very different from his innie just in the way he acts, what he is into. So, like,
Mhm.
the cussing, the attitude, I think that's all pointing to outie Irving. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I like this theory. I think it makes sense, and a lot of people are pointing to, like, at the end of the episode, he doesn't seem to be, like, super afraid of sacrificing himself because I'm sure he knows, like, if I attempt to kill an Egan, I'm gonna at least get fired from this job and not come back. So, like, he does that so fearlessly that it makes me think that he's probably reintegrated, and so he doesn't have fear of, like, essentially dying, like, his any dying.
Yeah. Yeah, and it could just be that he's, like, come to terms with his fate, and I think,
Yeah.
he even wanted to end it all after the OTC.
Yeah.
So but I agree, he did kind of have a smile on his face like, "Take me away. What are you gonna do to me?"
Oh, yeah.
Another theory going around is that this whole Woes Hollow Dieter Egan National Forest Park is all a simulation.
Mhm. Yeah.
So they're not outside at all. They're still somewhere within this Lumen facility.
Yeah.
Um,
This was my theory. I
oh, sorry, I read it for you.
No, you're fine. This I mean, this is one that I didn't, like, get online. It's just, like, the way that I thought,
Yeah.
and then I saw other
Mhm.
people talking about it online. But I really like, the things that happen in this episode are so, like, strange, like, it doesn't feel like reality,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
like, Irving sleeping outside in what looks like sub-zero temperatures, like, why did he not
Mhm.
die? And then also the weird, like, twin things, like, the doppelgangers of themselves, they look strange, and they're in office clothes, and, like,
Yeah.
you know, they're not talking or anything, like, they just appear also, and so did the DVD cart. It's like, well, why did Mark not notice the DVD cart there, or the TV cart, whatever? It just, like, kind of appeared next to them on the cliff. So, for me, it's just like, I don't think this is real. It's probably either that they're in some kind of simulation thing, or it's, like, augmented reality. Like, they might really be outside, but the things that they're seeing and maybe even like the temperatures and things like that are just like artificially created.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw some people point out that it didn't look like you could see their breath when they were
Mm,
talking, which would, like, point to, it not really being that cold.
interesting.
And I also thought that there were some things going on here that were not like reality. Like the twin people they didn't look right.
No, they didn't.
To me, they looked like badly developed like video game characters from the 90s. Like it was
Mhm.
kind of a face, but not really. Like
Mhm.
they looked kind of human-ish and kind of like their characters, but not fully formed. And yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, they're in normal clothes. Like obviously if that was a real human, that person would freeze to death.
Right. They kind of actually, they kind of look like when you encounter another person in a dream, like their features are
Mm.
kind of not
Mhm.
defined. It felt like that.
Maybe this whole episode is lullaby.
Ooh, weird.
We're seeing the lullaby setting. I don't think that's what's
Maybe.
happening.
Also, like Milchick and Miss Huang don't have a tent set up. They just kind of walk away. And I'm like, where are they sleeping?
Yeah. Yeah. They have a cabin, it's just a little ways away.
They were like, beam me up. They exited the simulation.
Yeah, I think they just, like, pressed a button and left.
Mhm.
The one thing people were saying online that made them think it was real is when Helena's being drowned by Irving,
Mhm.
there's that real fear that she's dying because otherwise, she wouldn't have said, "God damn it, Seth, do it."
Yeah. Right.
So it's hard to say. It could be augmented reality, like you said. They could just
Mhm.
be in a goat pasture room or something.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's real. I don't buy it.
Yeah, it seems risky that they would let them out, and it also seems unlikely that there's an entire national park that we don't know about.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, the town is called Kier, but
That's true. That's true.
you never know. Let's talk about this big one. This is crazy. So, people think that because Helena and Mark got jiggy with it, that Helena is gonna become pregnant. And there's a lot to this. So, why don't you talk about this, like, this first one here?
Okay, so if you remember, we talked about maybe there being a resurrected Kier or them trying to recreate Kier again is like the big thing that Lumen is doing. Well, one of the reasons we thought that is because there is a baby Kier in the new intro in season 2.
Mhm.
What if Mark is the father to this next Egan baby? And this is somehow the way they're going to bring Kier back.
That would be wild, but I feel like that I was telling you this earlier that I think Mark's current conflict is like so he's reintegrating, I don't know if he's fully reintegrated, um, and he needs to find his wife, but he's going to run into some issue because like things seem to be going kind of right for Mark. Like he's reintegrated, and so it's going to be easier to maybe find his wife, um, and find like his coworkers and talk to them. He's going to run into some wall, and this could be it. Like this could be a big thing that comes up for him.
Yeah, what if the big conflict is he has a new baby's mama who is an Egan and the next CEO of this horrible company?
That would be crazy. There's also, I saw people posting this scene from season one where Audi Mark is at home watching the news, and on the TV is actually Natalie, and they're talking about like what if an innie becomes pregnant and debating on that. So a lot of people are pulling that up as like, I'm sure they thought a lot about what they decided Natalie and this news anchor would talk about. So, and like everything they do in this show is on purpose. A lot of signs are pointing to baby, any baby.
It's crazy though because it's an innie outie baby because
Mm-hmm.
we know it was Helena and innie Mark, which is so complex.
Yeah. Can we talk about how Mark had sex with Helena?
Ew.
How is he feeling right now? That's sick.
Probably good.
I mean,
Oh my
hey,
god.
maybe.
Well, another thing people are saying, this is getting wild, y'all, is that Cold Harbor, the whole time we're thinking it's this file on his computer, the man hasn't sat at a computer in ages. What if Cold Harbor is something else completely? So, Schnozberry's Taste on Reddit says, I do actually wonder if Cold Harbor is impregnating Helly.
Wow. That would be
It
crazy.
kind of makes sense. And the people at Lumen saying he's so close, like he's getting so close, they could be talking about Helly and Mark getting so close, like emotionally in the relationship.
Whoa. That's true. Then what's the file doing?
I don't know
Nothing?
what the file's doing.
You mean Schnozberry's Taste doesn't have an answer for that?
Schnozberry's Taste is going to have to get back to us on that one.
I gotta
I
go
mean,
on
I
that
don't think
thread.
this, I don't know if this is 100% true, but it's interesting to think about that maybe we've been misled to think that it's this file on a computer that is their end goal that they need Mark for.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we have to think about too, Helly, who we now know has been Helena, was gallivanting around with Mark all last episode looking at goats. Like, how
Yeah.
is that furthering Lumen's goal with Mark and what they need
Totally.
from him?
Yeah, and you know what? It would make sense that they're like, "Let's have a change of scenery. Let's put them on a romantic retreat."
Yeah, well, yeah, get them an overnight because, like we were
Right.
talking about, these innies have never experienced sleep. They've never stayed overnight at Lumen.
I know. I wish I could ask Dylan how he felt after sleeping.
Refreshed.
Yeah, it's so weird.
They're
I
blowing
don't
my
know.
mind with this shit, I gotta say. I
They
mean,
really are.
I'm
It's
thinking
getting
about
so interesting.
it's so freaking good. And just when I think they're gonna have an off episode, like when I started this episode, I was like, oh shit, it's like we've fallen off. They go and blow my mind again.
Nope. As soon as I saw Milchick in his hot white outfit, I knew we were gonna have a good one. Yeah. So
Holy
I'm still waiting to see like more of Mark's POV on the reintegration because we only saw like a
mm-hmm.
slice of it when he saw Gemma. And people are saying that they think that like the reintegration takes time, maybe it takes multiple sessions. And
Mm-hmm.
so he really was acting like his more like his innie self this whole episode. So I think and like why would he have sex with her? After
Yeah.
she mentions his wife and everything, if he was reintegrated fully. So I think, yeah, we'll just probably see like a gradual change in Mark.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Mark and Irving, Audi Mark and Audi Irving are long overdue for a meetup. And I think now that any Irving is donezo, it seems, Audi Irving's gonna take over and we're gonna see a lot more from him.
Yes, and I'm excited to see him and Bert connect.
Oh, I hope so. Forget that other guy. Or you know what? Threesome.
Hey,
I
come
mean,
on.
throuple.
Okay, that's more romantic.
It's consensual.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Ethical non monogamy. Leash. Get with the times.
Okay,
2025, for God's sake.
You're right, I'm sorry. Sorry to offend all the thruples out there.
All the thruples listening to us, there could be 2 thruples listening to us right now, and that would equal all of our listeners.
If you're a throuple, you'll love this podcast.
Please
Um,
rate us 5 stars if you're a throuple.
uh, well,
Do you wanna talk about our bingo cards?
yes, I was just bringing mine up.
Let's
So,
take a look-see. This one threw us for a loop, so I don't know if we're gonna have as many as we had last episode.
yeah, I'm not sure. So, you tell me. Okay, actually, I feel like we both have one,
I
which
think I have
is
one.
Audi infiltrates Lumen. Like, that
Yep.
definitely happened, right?
It is confirmed that happened.
That
So I think
happened.
that's my only one this time. Unless you count, uh, an Ortbo as a new absurd office perk.
I don't
I don't think
know.
so. It's not a
Okay.
reward. They're teaching them a lesson.
Yeah, it is kind of a punishment or
It's
a
kind of a punishment where you get to boing.
yeah, honestly.
Go to YouTube. Go to YouTube.
I think they'll
Doing a
understand what
hand
boing
motion.
means, okay?
Go to YouTube to see a hand motion that you've never seen before.
That you probably saw on the bus in 1st grade.
If you wanna
Uh,
see it again, go to YouTube.
Go to Scissor Cave.
Oh my god, my Reddit username should be Scissor Cave to comment on all the Severance boards.
Yeah, go do that right now.
That's sick.
I do have one, but you tell me if you count it. New Kier quote. I mean, we got a whole Kier book, but I don't know if we have like a quote.
Uh, I think that counts. I mean, we have a whole appendix, you know?
You're right. Okay.
I think that
Okay, I'll
counts.
count it. It doesn't give me bingo anyway, so
Good, because 'cause I'm gonna win.
good because we're only on episode 4. You're gonna have to make like
Oh,
another card if we get bingo halfway through the season.
we're gonna yeah, we coulda made a card just for this episode.
I know, right?
Ah,
Well,
y'all, this
what are you
shows
excited to see next?
what am I excited to see next? You know what? I'm excited to get back to our old wild friend, Miss Cobell, because
Yeah,
I think she's cooking up some crazy shit that we're about to see soon.
she's cooking. And I am excited to see another woman we love, Devin. I feel like there's gonna be I mean, every moment with Devin is like it grounds us in how a lot of us would probably react to things that are happening around them. But I feel like she's similar to how you think Rickon's gonna have a moment. I think she's gonna have a big hand in this season.
Yeah, I think Rickon's maybe leaning the other way at this point. I'm not
Evil
gonna count
moment.
him out. I'm not gonna count him out. But yeah, I love Devin. I'm excited to see how she reacts when she finds out Mark's reintegrated.
Dude, I know. Oh my gosh, so much to look forward to.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, we are also looking forward to another show that is coming out soon, season 3 of The White Lotus, which premieres on Sunday, February 16th. And we are planning to do quick little episodes that we're going to release midweek.
Mhm,
So you can expect the first episode on The White Lotus on Wednesday, the 19th. We'll put that out.
mhm.
And I'm excited to get back into that universe and see what Mike White's got for us here.
I know. The show is so nuanced in like the characters and the stories that intertwine and there's such great like everything kind of builds to a thrilling finale every season so far. So I think it's going to be really really good and excited that it's in Thailand, of course. We'll try and get our mother involved in some way because I'm sure our
Yeah.
parents will be watching.
Yeah, I do love that this show is a new set of characters and a new set of stories every season.
Mhm.
So I'm pumped for that.
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention too. If you haven't seen the first 2 seasons, you do not need to watch them to get into season 3. So if you're like, "Oh, I haven't caught up or whatever and I can't listen, yes, you can, because it's gonna be a totally different storyline.
Yeah, I would say watch this season in real time.
Mhm.
Like you said, there's nothing you need to catch up on, and then you'll probably like it enough that you're gonna wanna go back and watch season 1 and season 2 because they were very captivating and good TV.
Mhm. Well, thanks as always for listening after watching. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok if you haven't already. We do our best to post some exciting clips there, and we want to hear what you have to say, what you thought about the episode, any theories you have. So please join us in the conversation, and we're excited to talk to y'all next week.
Amen, amen. Praise Kier.
Praise
Thanks for
Kier.
listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.